Welcome to a very special Backstage with Richard Ridge. Ann Reinking was one of the greatest dancers, choreographers, directors, teachers, and mentors. Her incredible Broadway career spans over 3 decades with such shows as Coco, Pippin, Over Here, Good Time Charlie, Chicago, Sweet Charity, Dancin', and Fosse. And from numerous films including Annie and All That Jazz. Throughout her illustrious career, she maintained the legacy of Bob Fosse worldwide. She was beloved by everyone who she worked with, and she was a champion to all who crossed her path, including myself. I had the privilege of conducting one of her last in-depth career retrospectives for Broadway World. So please join me and my very special guests, Chita Rivera, B.B. Newworth, Ben Vereen, Mary Lou Henner, Treat Williams, Sandy Duncan, Don Correa, and Eileen Croman as we celebrate the razzle-dazzle and heart of Ann Reinking.
The drums will bang and the cymbals clang. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
You know, Chita, we're here today to celebrate Ann Reinking. Do you remember the first time you sort of met Ann Reinking when she first came into your life?
Well, I do. The first time she came into my life was when Gwen came back. We were doing Chicago, Gwen Verdon and myself, and she told me she had just seen an amazing dancer, just a gorgeous girl, and she liked her a lot, and I knew at that time, I think, that she was Bob Fosse's girlfriend. And I thought, well, this is very nice. Gwen likes her. And so it's all very civilized and very grown up. And besides, when I saw a picture of her, she had the legs, she had the length of the body, she had the face, she had the hair. I mean, dancers always have a problem with hair. That's why we pull it back, because we sweat. But she just let this hair, and the hair was an extension of, it was like another leg. So when she moved, the hair moved, so I was a little jealous of the hair. She was the sweetest, the nicest gal, on top of all this talent that she had. And Bobby showed her beautifully. That you just welcomed her into the fold. She made a name for herself. What about that beautiful arabesque leap that she has? Every line was beautiful. You could tell that she had studied ballet for years. Her line, her technique, and she was humble.
Would you take me back to the beginning? Do you remember the first time that Ann Reinking came into your life?
I met Annie when she came in to replace Debbie Allen in Sweet Charity on Broadway. Yeah. And so I was playing Nikki Pignatelli. So I had, she came in as Charity, and we were playing best friends. And, Nikki takes care of Charity and is her best friend. And I had no idea that, 30 odd years later, I'd be looking back and going, that was actually the beginning of quite a deep connection and deep friendship. I'm grateful every day for it. She's a very private person. So it took a little while and she was so, she had to learn can you imagine learning the role of Charity, like in a really concentrated short amount of time? So she was very, very focused, and she is a very, very focused, very, very hard worker. And so eventually there was time to get to know her and so on. And I remember actually in one of the very first rehearsals when Bob was there, she said, "Oh, excuse me, I need to go change my tights. I have a hole in my tights." And Bob Fosse looked at me and goes, "Give them to her." Because always had very, very holy, ragged dance wear. And so I think that was the first time she went, who is this odd person?
Would you talk about the first time you remember Ann Reinking entering your life?
We were in rehearsal for a show called Pippin. We were all sitting around the table with Bob Fosse and the cast. And there was this lovely girl with these long legs came walking in the room. And she sat down next to me. Her name was Ann Reinking. And that's the first time I saw Ann. And we became friends from that moment on. I became like her mentor or her advisor, as it were. She was such a cute kid. I guess we were all kids in those days, weren't we?
What was it like? I mean, working on Pippin, that was such a beautiful musical, but working with her on Pippin, what were some of the fun times you and Annie had during Pippin?
Oh, I could tell you exactly. We were working on, she wasn't in the number, but we were working on a thing called the Manson Trio. Dun, 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 dun. So I go home to the hotel. I was staying at the, what's that place called? The Westgate, whatever they call it, Watergate. So I'm there, and I happen to be listening to Nielsen. The recording artist. I hear dun 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 dun. I run back into the theater. Bob, listen, we got to get this. Somebody stole our stuff. Somebody stole it. And Ann looked at me. She said, "Duh." No, he's stealing our stuff, Bob. He's not stealing our stuff. And she was there with Bob. She went, Ben, duh. Bob said, "Steal from the best." I'm telling you, we came from the Fosse school. So it was when she was it was so beautiful. I wish you could have been there. Her naivete. Yeah. Her little eyes, starry eyes. She was into this new world, and there was Fosse and I and Candy Brown and Kathy Dobie and all of us together. And she was this little girl with these long, beautiful legs and just stepping out into the world. And Fosse said, yeah. We all said, yeah. She was just so beautiful.
I was in New York for kind of a class trip. I was in college at the University of Chicago, and I ended up getting 2 seats. My sister and I were there. We got 2 seats for the last preview of Pippin the night before it opened. So that was on Sunday, October the 22nd of 1972. And it was just, we could not believe what we were seeing. And we were in the 2 last seats. We were in the front row of the second balcony, but we were in the 2 far left seats, so stage right seats. And all I could see, besides the hands and Ben Vereen, who of course was so fabulous, all I could see was this extraordinary creature, this dancer with eyes as big as saucers, who I couldn't wait till she came on. I went, oh, that's my girl. That's my favorite. She's unbelievable. And she was so charismatic and so beautiful, and so her dancer. I trained as a dancer my whole life. My family had a dancing school. So I always watch dancers, especially ones that are so extraordinary. And she was just amazing. And I kept telling everybody, Pippin's great, but you got to go see this one. And I didn't even know her name. And I just, kept looking, and I was on a school trip, but I made a vow to myself that the next time I come to New York, I'm going to have a job. And sure enough, a month later, I got the National Company of Greece. It's another whole story. I had done the production in Chicago and then got cast in the National Company, left school, and that was it. And so I go on the road with Greece and everything. Anyway, then I get cast in the show over here. And the very first day of rehearsal, which was December the 17th, of 1973, I walk in, and all of a sudden I'm looking and I'm thinking, wait a minute, she didn't have much makeup on. And I went, oh my gosh, that's the same girl. Oh my gosh, I'm such a fan. I can't believe it. I get to work with her. And she and I ended up being dressing roommates. And the 2 of us, we just never stopped laughing. We were so hoarse from laughing because we were both girls from big families. I think my family's got 6. Hers has 6 as well, I think. And she was just like so salt of the earth. And no matter how extraordinary she was as a dancer, she was just such a girl from a big family. And we had that crazy just the same kind of sense of humor that bounced off of one another, having grown up with a lot of brothers and sisters.
I don't remember the actual meeting, but I did something very strange. I auditioned and did not get the part in the show originally with Ken Weissman. And so I asked to come back and re-audition just to prove that I could do a good job in an audition. And they said, sure, because I was already the understudy in Grease. And the guy who was doing it bailed, and I ended up doing it. And so we had a first read through, and everybody was very excited because it was the Andrews sisters, and it was Annie and myself and Johnny Travolta and Mary Lou Hanner, and we were all in this giant room. And one of the things that bonded all the younger actors was that when it came time, we all sang all the numbers. And when it came time for the Andrews sisters to sing, they just started mouthing the words to the songs without singing. And we all looked at each other like, what is this? And we realized that they didn't sing until they were in front of an audience. They just didn't feel like it, or they didn't do it. And in a way, because we were all kind of in awe of that and shocked by it, everybody kind of looked at each other. And I think that's the first time I locked eyes with Ann Reinking.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything more than we'd just gotten our first. Well, I think Annie had done Pippin, and she was dating Bob Fosse at the time. But none of us knew that we anything other than we got our first Broadway show that wasn't already running. I remember just going out for drinks afterwards and in between shows and during note sessions. She was joyous. She was always laughing. As much as she loved laughing, she loved being made to laugh by others. She was a very, very good audience for all of us who were trying to be funny and charming, because we all thought she was awfully pretty and awfully talented.
You don't forget the first time you see her. The first time I saw Annie was somebody invited me to a rehearsal of Pippin. And I was across the street doing something. I don't even remember what I was doing, but I remember her. I stood in the back of the house, and this lanky, smiling ride with those eyes that she would do. You couldn't take your eyes off of her. She was that charismatic. That's the first time.
Yeah, for me it was Chorus Line in mid 70s, I guess 77. I went to California first with Donna, and then after Donna left, Annie came in, and she's just the best. You just knew that she was there every time, just like Donna. She was always focused, always there. She's just terrific. And we became good friends after that.
She's also a giggler, which I like.
Yeah.
She's a big giggler. We were doing the Tonys. There were going to be 3 women dancing together in a trio. And it was Annie and me, and we didn't know the third person. And she lived right across the street from us. And they sent a car to pick up Annie and me and bring us to the theater. So I get in the car. This is the first time I'd officially met her. And I said, so you live in the neighborhood? Yeah, she said, I live there. I went, you live in the Carlton Hotel, Carlisle Hotel? She said, yeah, it's a little penthouse on the top.
And she kept looking down at us.
Yeah, she looked down at our terrace. So I said, in other words, you look down on us and see everything we're doing. She said, no. Well, there was that one time. She was funny and fun to be around. Anyway, we got to the rehearsal, and in walks another woman with legs as tall as me, and the 2 of them were going to stand on each side of me. And I said, I'm going to get real cute real quick.
Man, you'll be rolling in clover when you matriculate over to Charlie's place. Saturday night, you're moving and grooving to a new shellac by Harry James or Freddie Slack. Buddy Rich is a half killer dealer, but nothing beats the music of the great Glenn Miller.
What was it like dancing with Ann Reinking?
Oh, like I said, it's unbelievable because she is there every moment, and we had a nice rapport. This was done through the American Dance Machine originally, reenacting the thing. The first time we did it with a full company, so we had all the other performers on stage, and then a couple times we were able to do it to publicize the American Dance Machine. Just us doing the number.
Didn't you all get up and do it on a morning show?
We did it on a morning show, 7:30 in the morning. We got up. Let me tell you, being shot out of a cannon with that number. But I have such fond memories of doing that with her because we busted our butt doing that thing because it's nonstop. But you don't give up because she's right there doing it. Just you're not going to be the one to stop giving it full out. You know what I mean? So she always pushed you to do your best.
Work with her was like working with a comet, grabbing it and holding on for the ride. And you can see that in the photographs of us. It was such joy, just joy. I look back now to pictures of us that we taken together and the film, working together, and I could feel the love. The love. We had such love for each other and respect for each other. She called me out of I was, at one point in my life, I felt like I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And she called me, and I was in Jamaica, getting ready to get on a ship to go on a cruise. And she said, "No, you're not going on a cruise. You got to come back to New York and go do Fosse." I said, "What?" She said, "I want you to do Fosse." And I just had my accident.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I'd ever be able to do Fosse again. And when I came to rehearsal, she came to rehearsal, and we were doing the Manson Trio, and I started doing the dance, and I got through this number, and I stood there and wept. She said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Because I remember hearing Bob say, if you learn to dance like this, you'll dance the rest of your life." She said, "He told me the same thing."
She actually, in Sweet Charity, she made me laugh harder than I've ever laughed on stage for the longest period of time on stage than anyone ever. I mean, there are some close seconds, but Annie holds the record. We were doing Something Better Than This. Annie and Allison Williams and me, and the number starts. And first of all, you have to know that Something Better Than This is a beautifully written number. The music is incredible, and it's long, and it's very aerobic. You need every breath you can get. So that's not the number you want to be laughing in to disturb your breath. But the number starts, and we had a fantastic band in the pit, but I think we had a sub guitarist that day, and they were a fantastic musician, but I think their amp was cranked up really far, and maybe we had a sub on sound as well in the back of the house. And all I know is it started with, "I'm getting out." Run, da, 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 da. And we went like this to each other. "What'd you say?" "I said, I'm getting out." Run, da, 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 da. And it was so loud and unrelentingly loud for all three verses of our song before we went into the dance, that by the time the number started, I remember seeing Allison Williams had tears coming down her face, desperately trying not to just completely lose it. Anyway, so the dance starts, and Annie says in a voice only Allison and I could hear, she sounded like a really amateur hour, really bad, tacky talent show host. And we're doing this traveling number. We're going on our way all the way upstage, and she goes, "Here comes the Spanish number." That was it for the rest of the number. For the entire rest of the number, we were useless. We were just hanging on by our toenails to get through it and not collapse.
on Broadway and in the theater, there are moments where magic really genuinely happens. And that usually happens when an actor or performer has a kind of a magic about them that is yet to be discovered. Or it's a combination of the writing, the music, the audience, the actor, and the play. And I was thinking about where had I seen it when I was in the audience. And when I went to London to study, it was Maggie Smith in Private Lives. It was Donald Sinden in London Assurance. I came back and it was Robert Morse in True. It was seeing Richard Burton in Equus. It was Ben Vereen in Pippin. It was the entire cast of A Chorus Line. Something happens where the audience falls in love with and for some reason connects with a performer in a way that is beyond anything you ever dreamed of. Some of us have had the luck to have that moment ourselves on some occasions, but we didn't really know we all knew Annie was funny and charming and she was gregarious, she was generous, and she was one hell of a dancer. You know, she had olive oil legs. Her legs went forever. And she and Johnny Mineo made such a team because he was about, 4 inches shorter than her. But the two of them, I think, were two of the best Fosse dancers who ever lived. And when we were rehearsing, we all knew that Annie had great energy and that wonderful cackle laugh of hers and her raspy voice. But because we were trying to figure our own stuff out, we weren't really aware of what was about to happen. And what happened was we got to New York and on Broadway, and as we became comfortable, we'd start looking over at Annie, and you could feel this energy from the audience. And Annie had this wonderful way of playing out when she was dancing. She wasn't asking for attention. She just played out in a way that was her style. And something extraordinary happened, some kind of lightning bolt between Ann Reinking and the audiences started to occur. And I wished I'd been in the audience to see it at least once. We all wanted to get out, have an understudy go on so we could watch Annie in the show. Something extraordinary happened and she exploded on Broadway. And she had audiences just screaming for her during the show. They loved everything she did. And so did we. But it's something that she made that magic happen in that show where it was beyond the actor and the audience and the music. Ann Reinking made magic happen, and the audiences knew it and the critics knew it.
We did a thing from, did Chita tell you the story?
No.
Where we did the Chita Awards, right?
Yeah.
And she had the Rockettes on. And there we were, Annie and I, during the kicks of the Rockettes. I looked at Annie and I said, are they serious? But Annie fell right in line. It was so great.
Because that was the last time we were all together.
That's right. You saw that. That's right. You were there.
Was at the Chita Awards when Annie didn't do a lot of this
together.
She flew in, and you flew in to do the Chita Awards for Chita. And I remember the two of you came out and neither of you had your glasses on. Remember?
That's right. That's right.
You always want to be respected.
Yeah.
Certainly by friends or people that you respect and you put at a certain level. And I loved her voice, by the way. I mean, it probably was lower than mine, which is pretty low. But when she showed up, it's like the sun pops and gets brighter. She was happy to be there, and I was thrilled and honored that she showed up.
You got to play Velma opposite her Roxy. The two of you are absolutely sensational in Chicago. You must have so many incredible memories of that show. I mean, first at Encores where no one even dreamed it was going to come to Broadway.
Yeah.
And then to go to Broadway. What was it like working with her and being with her in Chicago?
I'm not a poet, so I don't have the words to tell you what that experience was like. And I would have to be a very good poet to put that into words because it was so profound. It was so deep. It so changed my life. as she changed many people's lives. But it really just, it was beyond words. All I can tell you is that I continued, I fell in love with her. I continued to fall in love with her. I am in love with her forever. There was a trust between us. There was a connection between us that was beyond anything that had any logical explanation. I felt sometimes, this may sound strange, but it's the truth. I felt sometimes I looked in her eyes and I time traveled. It was a connection beyond anything.
The Hot Honey Rag was a part of a choreographed, number that Fosse did. And it started with a number called Two Dancing as One.
Yeah.
So what we had to do was we had to try to attempt to be as identical as possible, exactly the same. And everybody's taller than I am, but I don't believe that. You know what I mean? I have to think tall. And it was wonderful doing it with her because Gwen, of course, is ideal. And it took a lot of guts for Annie or anybody else to attempt that. And Annie made it. You know, it was great. It was great because she loved to dance. And so we shared, and we just looked at each other and enjoyed each other. And you love it when somebody loves what they do, and they love you, and they share it. So we were two dancing as one. We were.
You were Roxy. You were the second. You replaced her, right?
Yes. Well, this is what happened. So I didn't see Annie my first audition. I only saw Walter, whom I knew from the Grease family.
Yeah.
And then when I went back, it was April the 18th of 97. And
I love your memory. I love your memory.
Well, I mean, is it okay? Because it just comes out.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. So the Weislers were in the room and everybody was in the room. And Annie was there and they kept eliminating people. And I had worked really hard with Catherine Doby in New York, in California, to really work on the part. And Annie kept saying, no, I'm telling you, you need somebody who's likable, married who's likable, like I'm likable. You know, she kept saying she's likable. And then, you know, and it was more like, I just knew, seeing Annie's face at that long table of people that I was supposed to audition for, I just knew I had a friend there. I knew that I had somebody in my corner. I knew I had somebody who would make sure that I could do it. Because those are like enormous shoes to fill in. Of course, nobody ever does or did. And especially as Roxy. And you know, she was just my champion. She was my little angel beacon of light that I just felt was really rooting for me. And then we get into rehearsal and she was so unbelievable because she had no ego on anything. You know, she was like, oh, you're good at doing the shimmy. Let's add some more shimmies. You're good at this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Oh, I love the way you do that. So work on this flick and do this, you know, and she had me work with Caitlin Carter and with Louie. And I just, you know, I worked with the people and got to work a little bit with BB just the day before I opened. And, you know, she was so, I mean, Annie was just so amazing at making sure you looked good. She was your champion. It wasn't about her. It was about you. She wanted you to do your best so that you could really shine in the material that she provided, but she was going to go out of her way to make sure that it was designed perfectly for what you could do. Michael Buress made me a book when I left the show. And And I want to read you what Annie wrote. And
Yeah, please do. Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Dearest Mary Lou, I'm so glad this wonderful time happened. It's been so long for us, and it makes me so happy to have experienced your warm soul again. I've missed your laughter, and also I will be missing it again. Thank you so much for your generous spirit and talent. This is a sad day for me. Much love to you, dear Mary Lou, the girl with the shining face. Your Annie.
That is beautiful.
She's amazing. She was amazing. She was amazing to everybody. I cannot believe she's gone. It's like, thank God she has the legacy that she has, because she will never be forgotten. And every time you see a picture of her, I have a picture in my gym of her from my, it was in the New York Times, of the two of us hugging each other backstage after my first show. She was just so, she was so giving and so loving, and so, you just always felt safe as a person, as a fellow actor, as a friend.
When I went in to do Roxy, I was scared to death to have her come over and see me doing a role that she had done. And she could not be more supportive.
Yeah.
And or what you're saying, find your own way of doing it. And she'd laugh, and there was nothing ever in a competitive way. That's the other thing with Annie. I'm sure going in for, she doesn't compete. She supports. She always did. And celebrates whatever it is you're doing and finds a way to help you make it work.
When we did the Charlie's Place thing, it was like she was always there. She's always focused. I knew exactly where she was at every moment. It was such a joy to work with, and she was such a hard worker. She was always there doing it full out. It was never, of course, I think she was a little nervous too, because I think it was the first time she had done it since over here when she broke her back doing it with Johnny Mineo. And so we were very careful, but we had not only a really good time, but we had trust in each other, which was really great.
You both got to work on the film All That Jazz together.
Yes, we did.
What was it like? Favorite memories of working on the film together? Her being on the set with you and you being on the set with her. What was that like working with her on All That Jazz?
Well, we weren't really in scenes together, but we were there. And we were up in Purchase together and just hang out afterwards after the shoot today. We'd go out and have coffee and sit around and tell lies, and her and Bob and myself. And it was just fun. She was just fun to be with. She was developing into an actress. It was wonderful to see. And I recall her scene that we had to do, the last scene, Bye Bye Life. And she was in the audience. And Bob was good at scene where she goes, I'm going to die to you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do to you. Oh, if I live, what I'm going to do to you. That whole scene, she cracked up. I remember laughing about that. So did I. Because I knew the other story. But anyway.
We got Annie.
We've got Annie?
Yeah.
What made her one of the most sought after and one of the greatest dancers, directors, and choreographers?
Well, because she loved what she did. She loved it. She gave a 200%. She respected everybody that she worked for. She was kind. She was gentle. She took choreography that was given to her, and she not only applied it with her interpretation, but she did exactly what she made the choreographer look good. No matter how good he or she was, she made her look better. She was perfect, and you want somebody good to represent you and to tell your story. And she did just that. I never remember hearing a story about Ann Reinking being a problem. No. Being temperamental, being, insisting that she does things her way. And then choreography. she grew as she choreographed. She grew better and better, and I think the visit really was a wonderful stepping stone for her. I'm sure she maybe mentioned it to Peter, later, but even Gary Chris said that she was humble.
Dance wise, because she was unique. I mean, she had a style. It's like, it's like when you think about the role of Cassie, she could never be in a line and not stand out. So I mean, she was always unique. And if you see her, you just go, "Oh, that's Ann Reinking." She could be dancing with her back to you, and you would know that's her.
Yeah.
Sandy,
I'm sorry, Rick. I think the fact that she was unique and the fact that she was supportive, so she brought all those, first of all, an example to dancers, and then she supported them to be the best that they could be, because it was kind of like looking at somebody that was so unique, you thought you could never measure up, but she supported and celebrated your unique qualities. And I think she probably did that for her students and all the people that she ever directed.
I think all great dancers in some way are unique in their own ways.
Yeah, but it's like you said, if you saw her from the back, you'd know it was she, because it's like it's like Fred Astaire and Honey Combs and people that have a style. They just have their own particular special style.
I think that Annie, along with a lot of us, had something that we all respected about her, was an extraordinary work ethic. I don't think people know how hard and how painful it is for dancers to get where they get to give a performance, particularly 8 times a week. As a matter of fact, she was damaged quite badly in one night of the show, and she was out for at least a month with I think a cracked spine, and that was difficult for all of us. But her work ethic was such that she instilled in these kids a knowledge that the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And I think part of it was her work ethic. She didn't get there by just being charming and funny and fun to watch. She worked her ass off as a dancer and was an exquisite dancer. And I think one of the things about her that I don't know if people know is that she really is the reason Bob Fosse's legacy is so well cared for, because she knew every step of everything he did, and she basically was protecting it. Later on, of course, in the other shows that she did that were Fosse shows.
She was a great teacher. What she did, her students have lived on and moved on. Some of her students started out that they become great Roxys and Velmas and great dancers, and they're sort of carrying on her legacy.
If they listened, and I'm sure they did, because you couldn't help but listen to what Ann had to give you. That's the type of person she was and is. I say is because her spirit is with us always. Just by you and I talking about her, I try and tell Peter, she's in the very air that we breathe now. So breathe deep.
Ann Reinking was your teacher, right? Was she your teacher and your mentor?
Yeah, she was my teacher, my mentor, my friend, my colleague. But she started off as my mentor. I met her when I was 14 at Broadway Theater Project, which actually was called Musical Theater Project then. And she changed my life completely when I met her. I mean, she just changed my whole trajectory of what I was going to do. She kind of swooped me under her wing, and I have been working with her ever since. She taught me just the love of dance, the love, loving what you do with all your might. And she taught me the importance of hard work, like a work ethic that is strong and holding fast to that, and never losing the joy of what you do. She always used to say, if you start to lose that magic, then maybe try something else for a while and then come back to it and see. And she always just left that room to, if you're not ready to continue down this path, then find something else that gives you that passion. She always encouraged that. And as a mentor, she just gave me so much to work with. It's even hard to even describe the importance that she had in my life. Our mentor / friendship / colleague, working relationship. I assisted her on many, many things, many, setting productions in over in Europe for Fosse, the show. I helped her set the national tour of Fosse. So, and then Chicago, the musical, in Paris a couple of years ago. So I've just kind of been by her side and soaked everything up that she had to give through the years. And I just feel such gratitude for that, because she was so generous with her sharing. She changed so many people's lives.
I think about how many thousands and thousands of people's lives she's touched, her audiences, companies she's worked with for maybe a 2-day dance cleanup somewhere in Europe, whose lives are changed from that. But also she is so embodies what dance is. She is so embodies the pure artist who is curious and ferocious and passionate and feels so strongly about it that it almost becomes a healing when they work and have that, well, if they're altruistic, if they have that giving nature, which she did. And she was absolutely the most nurturing and sensitive person.
She had an incredible career, as we all know. But she also, the part of her that I think I think a lot of people do realize, but I think it's really important, is that she shared herself with so much generosity, and she loved teaching. She loved mentoring young performers, and that was really a big asset, of hers. And she loved to watch people grow, and she just, like I said before, if you were working hard and you were giving it your all, she would just be your biggest fan. You could just see the smile on her face, seeing someone, delve into something or try something they've never tried before, because she was right by your side. She never left you. If she saw you working, she was right there. And that support, as a relationship that I had with her as a mentor, that support really just propelled me through my career. I turned to her for so much guidance, not only through dance and, the Broadway shows that I did. I obviously would lean on her when I needed that guidance, but also just in life. She was a life mentor. And I'll always and forever be so grateful for her leadership and her positivity.
Her son, Christopher, was born with something called Marfan syndrome. And that is a very challenging syndrome, which I don't know, not a scientist, but it has it affects the soft tissue, and frequently eyes and hearts are deeply compromised by that. And so, and because it's soft tissue, frequently people who have it are very long and thin and have very beautiful, long, attenuated fingers, very, very long legs. So Annie's devotion to Christopher and to the whole Marfan community led her to participating in these, the Marfan Foundation. And the Marfan Foundation would have a camp during the summer, and families would go there, and it was offered great support and medical information and networking through all these families. And when she was there and looked at all these children and kids who had these beautiful long bodies, and they were having all these wonderful activities, zip lining and doing all these things, she decided to choreograph a dance. She honored these children. She didn't exploit what she was seeing. She honored them and she raised them up to embrace themselves and their particular unique gift, everything that made them, that she just raised them up and gave them these beautiful, very simple movements and lined them up, did these things. It's just beautiful. And she did it for the kids. She did it for the kids' families, and she did it for herself. But that, to me, that embodies everything that is Annie.
I think her joie de vivre, her love of life, was extraordinary. And I just remember, I wish I had stories, but it isn't like that. What it is a memory of a life force, a force of nature, that when you were in her presence, you felt better about being alive. She was really an extraordinarily kind, generous-hearted woman who had a big soul and a great love of life. And she was able to take that and put it out into a theater and share that with people. And that's a great gift. A lot of actors, they're funny off stage, but they get on stage and so they hold something back. Annie held nothing back of herself. She gave 110%, and it paid off. It was an extraordinary thing to be a part of. And I've not seen it more than 5 or 6 times in my, 45 years in the business. That kind of magic.
I couldn't save it, but I think that Annie sent me every year a huge poinsettia plant for Christmas. Just so big. I mean, at one point I said to Annie, I said to her, Annie, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend that much money on a poinsettia. You could just send me a little nice poinsettia. But every year we knew it was Annie because it was huge. And I just had to throw it out just last night. And I thought about it this morning because if it was still alive, I would have been sitting here with Annie's poinsettia plant.
On her final performance of Chicago, and she was making a speech on the stage, and we're all crying and as she's leaving. But she said she used to believe when she was a kid that when she danced, she made it rain. Now, she grew up in Seattle. Oh, and I should say, it was there. The last night of Chicago, there was a terrific, fantastic thunderstorm. So we were on stage at the Schubert, and we heard this magnificent thunderstorm and pouring rain happening outside. That's the way she thought, and that's the way she felt her dance in the world, within the elements. I think that speaks to her as an artist, who she was, how it was. That speaks to her passion, how it was an all-encompassing existence for her, that she was dance. She made it rain.
We just always had so much fun because she was just this beacon of light and this life force. She was this life force. I'm sure everybody has said that about her, and she told the best stories, and she was just so damn funny.
We all know we're all on the same highway. We're going to be leaving on different exits. And I think that the great joy is that I had a year with Ann Reinking that a lot of other people didn't have. And I feel very blessed to have been her friend and to have known her and to have even worked with her afterwards in her other pursuits. So I'm very lucky to have known Annie Reinking, and I miss her. I'll always miss her.
We've lost a big icon in our craft, in dance. Granted, we all get older and we all change and we don't dance as well as we did and all of that. But somewhere over there is a light that shines, and that was Annie. So now she shines within us, and we have to keep that alive. We have to talk about her. We have to think about her, and that's why this is good.
What she's taught me, what she's taught so many people, is woven in all of our spirits and all of our everything we do. every dance move that I make is informed by her.
I know that that sunshine, that caliber of dance, um, is gone for a while. I want to see Annie. You know, she's a person that you want to have as a friend, and you want to laugh with her because she understands.
I'll miss picking up the phone and hearing her lovely voice. I'll miss her coming to my shows and us having dinner and talking trash and talking wonders. I loved her.
You just always felt like she was there for you, and no matter what was going on in her life, and I know she had some tough times, she was just such a giver and so special. I just can't believe she's gone. I mean, you just know that kind of life goes on somewhere. That kind of life cannot just be cut off and go nowhere.
It's hard to imagine her not here in the physical sense, but I know, because I can feel that she's with all of us dancing, and in every step, every move we make, she's right here. She's right here with us.
Yeah, I'm going to miss the woman.
Yeah.
I'll miss the woman.